What's up, everybody? Back again with a different type of video than what I normally do, and depending on how well this video goes over, I might do more of these, so I don't know, but it's gonna be, I'm gonna be talking about, my history with like video games and like growing up with them and, stuff like that. So, but anyway, so yeah, to get right into it, my first system that I ever had was an NES, and that was around like, I want to say 1990 or whatever, and I was just like, I would play, was it Super Mario Brothers, Zelda. I had all the basic popular games that was out back then, but yeah, it's just back then. I admit it, like I wasn't that good at video games, obviously, because I think it was only around like 3 or 4 when I started playing. So I know that's kind of young, but or as my mom would say, I started playing them as soon as I knew how to sit up. So, and then I got a Sega Genesis, which I don't know if any of y'all know this, but Sonic the Hedgehog is my favorite, was a video game character of all time. So, which is why, even though it wasn't day one, I wanted it to be day one, but even though it wasn't day one, I did go see a Sonic the Hedgehog movie as soon as it came out in theaters. Pretty much right around as soon as it came out. And that movie was freaking awesome. I can't wait till the second one. But anyway, so yeah, and then my mom and my aunt, she had a Atari 2600, and they pretty much passed it down to me. And then my dad found like over like 50 games for it, and then he also found out that you could use the Sega Genesis controllers on it, so which made things infinitely easier, because back then, by the time I got the Atari, the joysticks were all worn out and everything. So yeah. But then I just ever since I started playing video games, I just I don't know, like, what I want to say. I've just had like a huge amount of love for video games. Like, and my mom asks me all the time, when are you gonna grow up and stop playing them video games? My answer, and this will forever be my answer, is never. Because it's just, for me, which I'm sure for a lot of people is escape, from all the craziness and stuff. So, but yeah, so after I got the Sega Genesis, me and my brother, we got the Super Nintendo for Christmas, and we started out with obviously Super Mario World, because that's what came with the system. And then then we gradually got more games like Donkey Kong Country 3, which was absolutely one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo. My favorite game, though, of all time that I've ever gotten on the Super Nintendo, and some of you may know this, is Super Mario RPG. So like I said, if they ever come out with a remake or a true sequel to it, I will have it day one. So just saying. But yeah, so like I said, and it was funny because when we first got the Super Nintendo, like, my first thought was like, I thought it was just for my brother. I was just like, what about me? But then no, my mom was like, no, it's for both of y'all. So yeah, and then we ended up getting like, I think we had like over 50 games for that as well. So, and we again had all the popular ones, like your Mario's, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, what else? Kirby, and then we also had like some lesser known games like Zombies Ate My Neighbors. So, but well, back then I think it was lesser known, and was it Excalibur 2067? I think that's what it was called. Don't quote me on that, but it's been a while since I played it. But and then pretty much at this point I've had every single system you could ever think of. The only systems I haven't had is the original DS, the DSi, and what else? The Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. I swear one of these days I will have a Nintendo Switch. So yeah, but and then also another funny story is my dad got me the Game Gear for Christmas one year. It was hilarious how it all worked out, because I opened the game for it first, and I was just like looking like, wait, I don't have a Game Gear. And then the next present I opened was the Game Gear. I was like, that's awesome. So I only ended up getting, I think, like 4 games for it. So, obviously Sonic, I think I had 2 Sonic games for it. And then I forget what other games I had for it, but yeah, it didn't last long, especially because, obviously, as many of you know, the battery life in that thing was So, but I never did get another one. I didn't get was the original Game Boy. My aunt had it, I used to borrow it and play the games that she had for it, but I never like actually had like an original Game Boy. So I didn't have a Game Boy till Game Boy Color. So, which I had the cool one, obviously the purple see-through one. But and the first game I got on it was, I believe, Pokemon. Was it Pokemon Gold? Actually, you know what? I take it back. Did I have? Wait. No, I was borrowing the Game Boy from my aunt at the time, and I got that Kirby. Was it Kirby's Dream Land? And I played the heck out of that game. And then I had Pokemon Blue. Oh boy. Another funny story about this. It wasn't funny at the time when it happened, but I was young at the time, but my uncle let me play his, was it Pokemon, was it Red, I think he had, and he goes, look, you can start a new game, but do not save it, and I'm just like, okay, because he had won that contest that, to get Mew. So, lo and behold, later on, I didn't find out till, I forget what year it was, but it wasn't that long ago that I found out that you could actually, it's a glitch, to do it, but there's a way to get Mew in the game without like Game Shark or anything like that. So yeah, but what else? So anyways, I was like, yeah, okay, I want to save it, and then so I get up to the was it Pokemon Center, and then I went to go take a Pokemon, or no, put a Pokemon in the was a storage box, and then I tried to change the storage box, and it says, do you want to save the game? And I'm just like sure, not even thinking about it. And then so I saved over his file. He was furious, so understandably so. But and then I got PlayStation 1, which I had tons of games for that. So, but of course, obviously, as many of you may know, my favorite game on that system was Final Fantasy VII. So, obviously that's why I bought the remake day one. But it was funny. When my dad first bought me it, he bought me with a Crash Bandicoot, and then because I didn't know, what a PlayStation was. I was like, PlayStation? What is this? Because I had never heard of it until he brought it home, and then because I was so used to playing like Super Nintendo and Sega, and I was like, But yeah, and then of course I graduated onto Nintendo 64, not long after I got the PlayStation, and my dad, when he first got it, I was just like, okay, I got the Nintendo 64, but I don't got no games for it. So he had to run out and get me Super Mario 64, because that was the point where Nintendo was like, okay, we gave you, was it Mario Brothers for the NES, with the NES. We gave you Super Mario World with the NES, but this time you're on your own, pretty much. So yeah, he had to run out and grab it. And then also I got Diddy Kong's Racing, which I wish they would make a sequel to that, because that was a pretty fun game. And then I got, Banjo-Kazooie one year for Christmas, and I was just like, at first I was just like, well, it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's like really cartoony and stuff like that. And then I just played it and started like falling in love with it, like collecting all the notes and collecting all the jiggy pieces, and everything you can think of. I just was trying to like collect everything in the game, and like I wanted to beat it like 10 times over, and like until it was like fully complete. And then then was it the following year? I think it was the following year. It might have been a couple years after that. But then I got it was a Banjo Tooie, and then because apparently the whole story with that was because at the end of Banjo Kazooie, spoilers, which I don't know why I would why these would be spoilers at this point, because it's over years and years old at this point. But spoilers, apparently what was supposed to happen was because at the end of Banjo Kazooie it showed like a secret like key and eggs and stuff like that. Apparently they were supposed to like carry over into like the second game. You were supposed to be able to like swap out the cartridges, and then they were supposed to be for something. And I don't think they ever ended up being for anything, obviously, because they couldn't get the technology right. I think it was to pull it off. But yeah, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, I guess back then technology wasn't obviously where it's at now. But yeah, and then I got a PlayStation 2, and the first game I got on that was basically GTA 3, because my dad had borrowed it from one of his friends, and he was like, I know you're not 18, because it was obviously rated M. I know you're not 18, but I know you're not stupid enough to go out here and do the stuff that's in the game. So obviously, I would never do any of that stuff that's in the game. So I know it's just a game, but yeah, he was just like, but because my sister was, I think like maybe like 2 or 3 at the time, he was like, do not let her play this because of all the bad stuff and violence and stuff in it. So, which is understandable, but so yeah, I played the heck out of that, and then I got a Game Shark for it, and oh boy, I had tons of fun with it after that. But I also, that was another thing I wanted to mention too. My grandma had bought me at one point. It was a Pokemon Crystal specific. Was a Game Shark. It was like the whole like Game Shark was like gold or whatever, or not gold, crystal. And like the color of the game, and like it was see-through and stuff. Like it was awesome. But I want to say my biggest regret out of all these years is the day I decided to trade in all those games. Like that was, oh my god, that was the stupidest move on my part. I'm not even gonna lie on that one, because I took them to was it a Game Crazy, so which doesn't exist anymore. So along with like Blockbuster and was the other one? Rockies, was it Reynolds or whatever? I think that's what it was called. But I took them to Game Crazy, and they gave me I think like 5 to 10 cent per game per Sega Genesis game. And by the time it was all said and done, I walked out of there with $20. Dumbest move ever. So I ended up buying at the time Grand Theft Auto, Liberty City Stories for the PlayStation 2. So I was just like, I do regret that a lot that I did that. But yeah, that was my only one regret that I ever had about video games. So after that, I never, well, I don't want to say I never traded in games, because I traded in some of my PS3 games. Because I needed the money at the time, but that's a whole different thing. So yeah, but and then I actually, the PlayStation 4 that I have at the moment, I actually won through a contest. Taco Bell is running a contest to win like a gold PS4, and it came with the Uncharted collection. So that I had never had that happen to me before. Like I was sitting there like just like eat my food or whatever, and then like all of a sudden like I see the code, so I was like, I'm probably not gonna win anything. So I go in online or whatever like it says to do, and type in the code, and it goes, you're an instant winner. I'm just like, what? So I was happy as hell that day. So yeah. So, and I've had this PS4 since, I want to say I got it back in 2015 is when when they sent it out, So November of 2015, that is. So and it's pretty much, it's been my baby ever since. So, you know, I've taken care of it, you know, and that's the thing. I'll admit, like back in the day, I was terrible as you know, as far as taking care of games. Like I would like leave them sitting out or whatever, and you know, like they would get all scratched up, and I wonder, oh, why won't it work anymore? And then, well, and then I would, you know, not gonna lie, I used to get mad at video games and break controllers, but then, you know, I saw how much the controllers cost nowadays, and I'm just like, yep, no, I'm done. I'm done. So, but because it costs way more than even games, and the games itself, like I think like the PS4 controller is like $80. So, yeah, it's not happening. So yeah, that was my experiences growing up with video games. So I want to know y'all's experiences. So leave a comment down below and hit that like button for me. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload. Thanks.